Preamble. The writing of this treatise stemmed from the intellectual and social disintegration that may happen in any society, is more pronounced in the Muslim communities. It got to be countered by an overwhelming intellectualism that I have been doing through my writings for over 20 years. All belief systems and divine religions, whether one has consciously adopted one or is born in one of them, compel its adherent to defend them to the degree of air devoutness. It is like safeguarding an internalized, spiritual identity. It, therefore, becomes an intrinsic part of every adherent to use the best possible ways, argumentum a fortiori, to defend his internalized personality, being, even if from a mere minimum level of consciousness about it. Creator has endowed man with an inbuilt faith. Even faithlessness, atheism, is a faith, though through denial. Since one owns it or feels like belonging to it, he feels obligated to defend it, at any cost and by any means. So much so that human incapacities and shortcomings end up subsumed in the divine will and consummate wisdom of God. Though, as per the endowed intellectual capacities of man, what does not come to pass, happens, despite ardent beseeching, is a useless nonentity, he keeps on creating the most convincing arguments to justify it, thereby willfully deluding himself. God is up against some hurdle or incapacity, whatsoever it could be, including his will/wisdom, for not bringing it forth. As a consequence of the endowed intellectual capacities of man and resulting experiences, God seems neither omniscient nor omnipotent nor need-free unless pushed under the carpet of indoctrination. His unyielding may, therefore, be due to his schematics or impersonality. Hadith Qudsi. I was a treasure unknown, then I desired to be known, so I created a creation to which I made myself known, then they knew me. Ibn Taymiyyah and others state that the meaning is true and inferred from Q. 51-56. I did not create jinn and humans except to worship me. One may ponder on Surah al-Infitar, verses 6-9, which in essence say, O humankind, what beguiled/deceived you against your merciful Creator, who created you, proportioned you and balanced, symmetrized, you in a form he willed? Nope, you are denying/transgressing my prescribed religion, schematic way for you. An explication. Although I created you in a way, I willed, nay but, you are the one denying/transgressing. What caused that behavior? Can any rational being even remotely conceive that an omnipotent and omniscient would not know? In this and other similar verses, two expressions predominate. 1. I am the authority, how dare you blame me, you are wrong. Jobber. 2. I created you, with all my passion and love, the way I willed, the best in my consummate wisdom, then what made you differ from me? Bemused about a bit of free will granted. The following hadith will vouch for my explication. May Allah forgive me for this nonconformist explication. Hadith.
Aisha, R.A., reported, the Messenger, PBUH, said, follow the right course, seek nearness to Allah, and give glad tidings.
Verily, none of you will enter paradise by his deeds alone. They said, not even you, O Messenger of Allah? The Prophet said, not even me unless Allah grants me his mercy. Know that the most beloved deed to Allah is that performed regularly, even if it is small. Hadith authenticity agreed upon according to Sahih al-Bukhari 6099, and Sahih al-Muslim 2818. Quasi-concurrence of determinism and predestination. Determinism is an ethico-philosophical concept, whereas predestination is a religious one. Both posit that the future is inevitably locked in place. Predestination is a decision of God. Determinism is the result of immutable laws of nature or the universe. Both could reconcile through religious concepts of bila kayf, without how, and Aman bil Ghaib, belief in unseen, and equally so, through non-religious concepts of creational schematics and impersonality of God. Allah, SWT, seems to be conveying, we gave you free will. Just accept it, as a special favor, without questioning, as your belief in unseen Allah without asking, how and why. For the entire universe has willingly done so, submitted. Quran has asserted in the Q. 91-8,9 and 10. In verse 8 God endowed the human soul with the criterion of good and evil. In verses 9 and 10 God, according to some exegetes, purified the soul of those he willed and polluted of those he willed. Then God, in verse 15 asserts his absolute power by declaring that he is not bothered about the consequences of his actions. An excerpt from Marful Quran. Clearly alluding to schematics and impersonality of God. Exegetes, seemingly as an afterthought, interjected the use of free will by man to be liable for the consequences, absolving God of exercising his will in purifying or polluting the soul of man. The dilemma of Einstein, therefore, should be resolved by one sentence: Creational schematics. Produced through a value-added decree. Human free will does not operate but at the spur of some cause, which is again determined by the will of God. Man chooses what he chooses, for he is not free fully in his choices but a little bit. He has but an elbow room to choose from, say e.g. 5%. 95%, predetermined. Quote. Absolute free will, capacity granted, enabling a man to act independent of God, is contrary to the doctrine of monotheism in apps. In this case, how come man becomes responsible for 100%, or even more, forever, indefinite? It is but a figure of speech, employed in the Holy Quran to synchronize with endowed human sensibilities. Qadar equals schematics. Eternal punishment, therefore, would be of a finite term, not indefinite. Verily, we have created all things with measure, Qadar. Q. 5449. Decisions we make. Cognitive scientists are becoming increasingly aware that a metaphysical outlook is so deeply ingrained in human thought processes that it is inexpugnable. Evidence from several disciplines indicates that what one factually believes is not a decision he makes for himself. Fundamental beliefs of the man are ingrained at a deeper level of his consciousness, and some may well be more or less set in stone. It should not come as a surprise, for we are born believers, not atheists, scientists say. Human beings from their birth are pattern seekers, according to their default setting of a belief in karma or cosmic justice. A slew of cognitive traits predisposes us to faith, writes Pascal Boyer in Nature, the science journal, adding that people are only aware of some of their religious ideas. Schematic. In a study published in Nature Neuroscience, researchers using brain scanners could predict the decisions people formed 7 seconds before the test subjects were even aware of making them. The decision studied, whether to hit a button with the left or right hand, may not be representative of the multifaceted choices integrated into our sense of self-direction. Regardless, the findings raise profound questions about the nature of self and autonomy. How much free is our will? Is conscious choice just an illusion? Your decisions are strongly prepared by brain activity. By the time consciousness kicks in, most of the work has already ended. Said the study co-author John Dylan Haynes, a Max Planck Institute neuroscientist. Self-evident knowledge is either preordained, imbued, or genetically inscribed/coded experiences, that is, beyond human control, thus refuting exercising of absolute or at random free will by man. For example, no one would call a stone or a blind man, saying "Come look at me." Thought process from the religious perspective. Everything is created by the Creator, with its fitra/takdir, nature, instinct, op manual. Thinking and exercising free will, on the part of the creation, is from a position of deficiency. God does not think through but intends/wills, for he is omnipotent, causer of both the cause and the effect. Nothing evil emanates from his essence, Q. 48:23, but from his creational schematic/activities. Thus, rational beings are imbued with good and bad, flanked by the eternal enemy of man, Satan. Indeed, our word to a thing when we intend/will it is but that we say to it, be, and it is, Q. 1640. On the other hand, when a rational being exercises his option of intention/will, in a similar fashion, without thinking and deliberation, it is bound to be fraught with dangers because a rational being is a creation with an existential amiss flanked by ever misleading Satan. Greater than existential amiss. Non-local origin of thoughts. It is a known fact that the thoughts are of non-local origin and descend on the heart as an external stimulus, which is then processed by the brain, giving them shapes, attaching emotions, and conclusion/judgment, decision. Quran testifies to this through Q. 91-8 and inspired, man, with what is wrong and what is right, qualified by Q. 81-29 and you will not, unless it be, that Allah wills, the Lord of the Elameen, people, genes and all that exists. Schematism. Verily, we have created man into toil and struggle. Q. 90-4. The assertion that Allah, SWT, created this world for test and trial inevitably leads to a question why. And then obviously to, is God trying to find out what he already does not know? God forbid. If he is not, then it got to be schematic. In the Holy Quran, God boastfully reveals his fatal dealings with ancient people, which, in all probabilities, man would have never, otherwise, known. These seem like his never-before experiences with which he impresses the current and later generations. Otherwise, him being omniscient, it has to be his schematics. Verily, we have created all things with measure, Qadar. Q. 5449. Greater than Wahid 1, number 19. Inanimate objects, such as celestial bodies, strictly run as per their nature/instinct. When these bodies would be ordained to act out of their instinctual nature or have run their courses out, there will be a catastrophe. Given this strictly instinctive behavior, the predictability of their movements with acute precision became possible in quantum physics. Plants have a bit of leeway in their instinctive behavior through adaptability. Akin to human free will, when compelled by external factors, their roots or overall flourishing can deviate and adapt. Like, in grafting or circumventing the inhibitions blocking the roots and branches. They also respond to hate, praise and danger, etc. Animals are more adept at external factors. Comparatively more akin to human free will yet unable to emulate human capabilities, therefore, they can get trained to act out of their instinctual pattern. Like a dog rocking the cradle of a baby. Lion and elephant performing in the circus, etc. Plants and animals, contrary to the common archaic beliefs, are witnessed making use of the human-like intellect and feelings. They respond to fear, anger, love, or hate targeted at them. Some plants are capable of even catching their prey. Animals have been witnessed helping, protecting and rescuing other animals and human beings. Dolphins have exhibited an exceptionally high level of intelligence. It is, therefore, difficult to say that they act within their instinctive boundaries only. I would contend that every created thing, animated or inanimated, has some level of consciousness and intellect and uses it as and when subjugated or ordained. Q. 22:18 and 41:11. Schematism. I would also contend the inevitability of intellect for denial or transgression, else fixity of routine would have sufficed. Therefore, as Plotinus has said, sin is a consequence of free and will, employment of intellect, therefore, is an obvious culprit. Schematics in essence. The above line of thinking gets vindication from the fact that the divine has truncated the process of retribution for all other beings who worship God uninterruptedly, consistently and ardently than the man and the gene, but without employing human-like intellect and or free will. Only the man and gene have, therefore, been opted for extensive and stringent retribution. Schematics in essence. The concepts of kata and kadar seem have been misconstrued in verses 97, 1-5, 54-9, 2050 and 76-2-3. In modern terminology, these could be explained as value-added decrees, meaning, creation of things with assigned value/power/level of intellect. Schematics in essence. Kadar equals value. Eternity and punishment, therefore, contrary to what is generally translated, presumed and propagated, would be of definite duration, not indefinite. However, the initial value of the reward may increase many times due to the application of His mercy. In the given situation, on the factual structure of the universe, a religious moral framework supervenes, that is for, the essence of life is the value effectuation and value correspondence between man, subject, and the objective reality. Effectuation of value and the correspondence between man and God, that transcends into immortality. We will set up the scales of justice on the day of judgment so that no soul will become wronged in the least. And even if a deed is the weight of a mustard seed, we will bring it forth. And sufficient are we as a vigilant reckoner. Q. 21:47, weight of an atom, Q. 440. Impersonal God. Impersonal God in this treatise is the Creator, who runs His created universe through agency. For an absolute schematism, one will have to accept the concept of non-personal God and understand mutashabiha verses in the metaphor or allegorical framework. If we observe, by setting aside the prism of scriptural dictums, the universe looks functioning precisely calculatedly. Mathematical precision and perfection. Holy Quran, on up-close scrutiny, seems to allude to God as an impersonal being and not an immanent God. He has an army of countless angels to do everything for Him. In this case, all the anthropomorphic verses have to be understood metaphorically. Most of the 99 names of God, as well as His characteristics, eloquently delineated in Q. 2-255 and 6-103 and 112-14, would also become merely a source of psychological inducement to man to relate with Him and develop an awe of Him. Vision comprehendeth Him not, but He comprehendeth all vision. He is the subtle, the aware. Q. 6-103. And there is none comparable to Him. Q. 112-4. Quran, despite the extensive appreciation of His anthropomorphic characteristics, does not explicitly affirm His role as a hands-on, active God. Which seem alluded to in Quran through verses like, we created, fashioned and guided, Q. 87-2-3. It means He assigned it, thing/being, its manual and value, fiqdar and qadar, To function from there on, naturally, to run its course. Most of the characteristics of a man represent his incapacity to know about forthcoming events. Such imputations, adorning him with anthropomorphic characters in a literal sense, to an omniscient, omnipotent God would be utterly ridiculous. Some of the verses in the Quran, by implication, allude to impersonal God. On the contrary, however, intellectually inclined, religious figures resolutely assert that his role in Quran is primarily that of a functional God. Indeed, we guided him to the way, be he grateful/be he ungrateful, Q. 76-3. And shown him the two distinguished highways, Q. 90-10. Verses like these, on the contrary, seem to create the impression that God finished guiding man, showed him the ways, now it is up to him to choose the way he wants. Impersonal God, on the one hand, may engender hopelessness when beseeching by man may go unheeded. On the other hand, however, it may enhance the virtue of contentment in the face of vibrant diversity and fixation of value, Qadar. As said in verse, Kafirun, your religion for you and mine for me. The suggestion here is that, let go the things as they may, you keep busy with your own. Emulating the impersonal character of God. Quran uses the honorific plural we for God. The use of this personal plural pronoun may be an implied acknowledgement of the agencies involved in the day-to-day functioning of the universe. I am Allah, there is no God but I, so, serve thou me, only, versus, so, we, open the gates of heaven, with water pouring forth. And we cause the earth to gush forth, with springs. A discourse by Ibn Arabi seems, alluding to schematism and the impersonality of God. The creative command is the existential decree, of, God, which creates the universe itself. It is the decree of the God who says be. And so it is, 3682. This realm evolves by the rules of natural law. Ambiguation/allegories, alluding to schematics and impersonality of God. He is the one, who has revealed to you the book, Holy Quran. In this book, some of the verses are muhkamat, of established meaning, injunctive, which are the essence of the Quran, and others are mutashabihat, allegorical. Those who have perversity in their hearts distort their meanings, to their whims, to create discord. Allah, SWT, only knows their exact meaning, so, those well grounded in knowledge say, we believe therein, it is from our Lord. And take the advice. Q. 3-7. Behold. This is a reminder. Then, whosoever will let him choose a way unto his Lord. But you will not, so will, unless wills God. 76:29-30. When read in conjunction with the. Do they not ponder on the Quran? If it had been from other than God, they would have found therein much incongruity, Ikhtilaf. 482. In chapter 16, v. 36 it is said. And among them were those whom Allah guided, and among them were those upon whom error was, deservedly, decreed, and also in v. 37, even if you should strive for their guidance, O Muhammad, indeed, Allah does not guide those he sends astray, and they will have no helpers. When pondered upon the verses carefully, these allude to the absolute assertion that man's will subsist in Allah's will and that all of his decrees carry an absolute certainty of purposes and values. He is omnipotent in every conceivable way. He may let it be what created being has done or erase it, for he is the owner of the book of eternity and that he does not change his way of exercising his will. He is above and beyond the rules of causality and the confines of chronological space-time. The Holy Quran approaches the issue of predestination and free will from different angles. In some instances, it seems to advocate predestination by belittling every action in the will subservient to the will of God. In other situations, it holds man endowed with free will and charged with the responsibility for his actions. Depending on the situation in verse. Satan established determinism by blaming Allah, SWT, for making him go astray. Schematics. He, Satan, said, because you have sent me astray, surely I will sit in wait against those, human beings, on your straight path. Q. 7:16. Satan, thenceforth, has become an agent, bogeyman, for the wrongs committed by rational beings. Schematics. Whatever of good reaches you, are from Allah, but whatever of evil befalls you, are from yourself. Q. 479, caused by either Satan or the use of free will. Satan and free will, both, agencies, are the linchpins of a schematic retributive system. Jaza and Saza. Predestination is the practical manifestation of him being Qadar Mutlaq in the face of ever-transgressing man. Immanent God. Although, name of God, besides his quasi-names, is mentioned 6,000 times in Quran, these are concerning man. Quran avoids all discussions about the theoretical nature of God. It resolutely avoids the issue of the power of God and its effect on human freedom. Quran only asserts that God is all-powerful and man is endowed with freedom of choice and charged with responsibility. The Quran purports to keep human behavior in attention, balance, avoiding the hopelessness which may develop due to his overconsciousness of self-abnegation, piety, vis-à-vis God. And on the other hand, his rash boldness whereby he may rebel, in the zeal of self-righteousness, substituting his will for the moral imperative. The purpose here is to keep man from either of the nihilistic extremes, preserving his highest level of moral creativity. The immanence of God does not mean that the acts of man or nature are, actually, done by God. God does not interfere or substitute the work done by the agencies. Therefore, as far as the real content goes, one may translate these statements without invoking God in a naturalistic way. The beauty is that one may conceive of him anyway. He is there but transcendent due to his very being. He, in temporal reality, is an inconceivable concept/construct. He is unique, unlike anything. Q. 112-4. I am the thinking/belief of my servants. Hadith Qudsi. God in Quran declared, "We perfected your religion." Q. 5-3, which may easily be understood as, He by utilizing his experiences with earlier people, perfected and finalized Islam as the final religion until the end of time. An in-between way. Shia interpreters assert that, based on the teachings of the noble family of the Prophet, there are no contradictions among the verses of the Holy Quran, and they need not incline to either of the wrong dogmas of determinism or indeterminism. A creative moderation of, an in-between way, therefore, was adopted by Imam Jafar al-Sadiq. A way in between determinism and free will sure justifies the creational imperative but contradicts the endowed common sense. Although the purpose and need for the descent of the prophets were incidental to the creation, its designed purpose and its exercise of free will, no matter whichever way looked at, it is not an epistemic problem. It is a problem of interpretation, deduction and comprehension. In the same vein, it is also not a problem of the foreknowledge of God but that of endowed free will, subsistent in his will. Preserving monotheism in the act. It is neither omniscience nor omnipotence of God, which create problems, but the granting a bit of a freedom or an elbow room of freedom that results in enormous consequences for its obvious use. Transgression. The fallacy of the free will. Here the causative determinism of man is judged through the theological determinism of God, caused by or consequence of his will, wherewith it is rendered predetermined, for beyond him does not exist. Similarly, suppose the human free will, the cause of his action, subsists in the will of God. Will of God then predominates the human free will, which, despite its brevity, renders it predetermined. Moreover, after being assured of its availability, man may exercise his free will, mechanically rather than intentionally. In this situation, a wrong choice of the man would not render him accountable, for there is no intention at play. Monotheism in acts. The free will issue, therefore, can be squared up only through the doctrine of Bila Kaif, without asking why? And that of creational schematism. For compliance or complacency, there is no need for free will as the compliance by the angels and other creatures, operating according to the fixed nature of the creative decrees, is well known. An acceptance of the concepts such as Taqween/Taqdir Mubram will vindicate this assertion. Free will, therefore, is an inevitable catalyst for transgression, denial, and deviation. Plotinus put it aptly. Sin is a consequence of free will. Pro-free will views, from a reductionist standpoint. There are two ways of thinking about human beings. We can either think of them as heaps of interacting particles, as nothing but physical systems, or we can think of them as intentional agents with psychological features and mental states. If we tried to understand humans in a reductionistic way, there would be little room for free will. But the human and social sciences support the second way of thinking, the non-reductionistic one. It, in turn, supports the hypothesis that there is free will. Free will requires intentional agency and occasional control over our actions. Agency, choice, and control are emergent, higher-level phenomena, like cognition in psychology and institutions in economics. They supervene on physical phenomena as, philosophers say, but are not reducible to them. Even under a non-reductionistic way of thinking, thoughts or intentions shall retain their non-local origin. According to the Theosophy of Ibn Arabi, free will is a consequence of human subjugation to obligating commands of God, which paradoxically necessitates its exercise. Imam Ghazali. Think not that the actors you have watched are free agents moving by their own choosing. No, they are only toy figures moved by an unseen hand in the performance of prescribed parts calculated to predetermined ending by God, the greatest playwright, seems an unreflective and cursorial outpouring from space-time matter mindset. Shi'a doctrine of in-between way could be interpreted in different ways. It could be conforming to the Mutazilite thesis, that human beings have the freedom to act, la jabr, but it does not, morally speaking, mean to do as they please, la tafwiz mu, for God has fixed rules, allowing certain things while forbidding others. The real intention of the supporters of this in-between way was to range themselves against both the Mutazilites, regarded as followers of the doctrine of tafwiz mu, and the Jahmites, advocates of jabr. It was a matter of traversing safely between these two contradictory views. Not a very simple and self-evident proposition. It would be true to say that the very manner in which Ja'far al-Sadiq enunciated these two conflicting theses lacked clarity. At times, he took jabr, apparently, in its practical sense, to where God would compel mankind to trespass and then punish them for it afterward.
Khomeini, I. p. 159, seconds 8-9, 11, Ibn Babawayh, 1387, p. 360, seconds 5-6, and at other times that God was capable of imposing upon them things beyond their capability. Khomeini, I. p. 160, second 14, cf.
Also Ibn Babawayh, 1387, p. 362, second 9, both instances negating divine justice. As far as tafwiz is concerned, it would either imply that things could happen here on earth without his wish.
Khomeini, I. p. 158, second 6, p. 159, second 9, p. 160, second 14, or that the transgressions of humankind did not depend on his might. Al-Ma'asibi Gair Kawatella, Ibid. p. 158, second 6, in both cases denying or limiting his absolute sovereignty, Sultan. According to some accounts, when asked to elucidate the problem, Ja'far al-Sadiq would resort to evasive answers. Khomeini, I. p. 159, sections 8-11, going as far as saying to his interlocutor, with a wave of his hand indicating his perplexity,
monotheism in acts. God is the ultimate source of all that exists. Combining these two notions concludes that God has empowered man with free will without signing out the full authority to man. Thus, when a man wills something, he only wills so because God has willed to give him the power of free will. The will man has, therefore, is encompassed by the will of God. For instance, when a man wills an evil deed, it is correct to say it is his will because he has exercised his willpower, and thus he deserved to be punished for his action. Similarly, it is correct to say the evil deed is from God, for God enabled man to enjoy free will. However, this does not hold God responsible for the wrongdoings of man. Simply because, he did not have to exercise his free will on an evil deed. Here, either one or both the agencies, i.e., Satan and free will, may be accused of inducement. It is an act either as per the schematics or impersonality of God. In both cases, he the actor, the influenced, is to face the consequences. Shi'ism point of view, God, Satan and free will have no share, whatsoever, in it. And surely, we have created many of the jinn and humankind for hell. They have hearts wherewith they understand not, and they have eyes wherewith they see not, and they have ears wherewith they hear not. They are like cattle, nay even more astray, those. They are the heedless ones. 7-179. The Mutazilites' postulations about free will. Humans must have total free will as God, who is perfectly wise and good, cannot cause evil, yet evil exists. God allows human suffering to test the faith of people, which is evidence of complete freedom of action. Moral actions are either good or evil, and humans should use their reason to work out which is which. God must stand by his promise to reward the righteous with paradise and punish the wicked with hell. The reward or punishment that God gives out can only be just if it is to creatures who factually have free will. Although the Quran teaches that God guides and leads astray whoever he wants to, Surah 14-4, for Mutazilite Muslims, it does not mean that people are subject to predestination. Mutazilite instead believes that such passages in the Quran refer to what will happen after death, at the judgment, when the righteous will be led to paradise and the wicked will be caused to stray far from it. Scholars describe two types of wills for God. One is divine will in creation, iradatu takwini, and the other is divine will in legislation, iradatu tashrai. I wonder if this bifurcation has some textual backing? Book of Blots and Mulak decree also seems to be deductive abstraction/innovations by Dot. Based on terms coined by Ibn Arabi in his Futuhat al-Makkiyah, creative commands of God and obligating commands of God, coined by Ibn Arabi. Futuhat al-Makkiyah. The phrase Book of Blots has been derived from the translation of Arabic word maha, used on Q 13-9, which means to erase, first by translating it as blot out and then transforming it into whole book of blots. Descriptive versus prescriptive. The natural laws are descriptive, amenable to change, subject to causality tashrai, not prescriptive. Takwini, that means we cannot deny, for instance, gravity. We, however, can describe it in many ways. The prescriber, God, has ordained it to act a specific way. Thus, quantum physics enables us to predict natural phenomena with more or less certainty/accuracy, depending on its being descriptive or prescriptive. It is for this reason that all philosophers agree that determinism overshadows nature. Inter-sectarian wrangling on the topic. Quote, Imam al-Fakhr al-Razi, 543-606 AH, an Ash'ari interpreter of the Quran, believed in determinism. Others, such as al-Zamakhshari, 467-538 AH, a Mutazilite, believed in the man having given full authority, tafwiz, highlighting the verses that hold man responsible for his actions while interpreting the other group of verses in a way to suit his school of thought. Non-Muslims, however, remained in a state of confusion, claiming that the Quran does not give any clear or consistent impression on the subject. Shia school narrative. Allah blots out what he wills and confirms what he wills. And with him is the mother of the book. Q 1339, whatever a person does is predestined before he was born, whether it is marriage or something else. Divine decree is of two types, Mubram and Mulak. Mubram means inevitable and unchangeable fate, while Mulak refers to that in the records of the angels. Its being in the ledger of the angels, instead of God, alludes to agency arrangements, schematism and impersonality of God. Mulak is what the verse means. Subject to change. For every term is a decree. Allah eliminates what he wills or confirms, and with him is the mother of the book. Quran 13:38-39. Mulak is also the type meant in the narration, hadith, of the Prophet, Pbuh, who said, "Nothing prevents fate except supplication, and nothing prolongs life except good deeds and acts of obedience." What has remained unactualized cannot be a fate. It is simply an inappropriate use of the word fate for punishment or calamity. According to the interpretation of the above verses, Allah has two types of decrees, one in his book of blots and confirm, al-Mahyu wal-Ithbat, and the other is the preserved book, al-Lu al-Mahfuz, or the mother of the book, Kitab. The irrevocable decrees belong to the preserved book, where the revocable decrees are part of the blots and confirms book. Thus, a man with his actions can change a revocable divine decree. Book of Blots and Mulak decree seems to be an abstraction/innovation beta. There are a host of diametrically divergent interpretations of these verses. According to a Shiite writer, Mansur Leghia, the doctrine of changing one decree for another is called al-Bada. Deduced from the Q 1339 above. Although this term is also part of Sunnat literature, the concept of al-Bada seems an abstraction/innovation, bida. Sunnat exegetes are equally imaginative as the Shiites. An excerpt from Maruf al-Quran, Tafsir. The sun will be thrown into the ocean, and as a result of its heat, the entire ocean will turn into fire. The two interpretations are not contradictory. They may be reconciled thus: first, its light will be put off, and then it may be thrown into the ocean. Sahih of Bukhari records from Abu Huraira that the Holy Prophet, Pbuh, said that on the day of resurrection the sun and then the moon would be thrown into the ocean. Musnad of Bazar has the addition that they will be thrown into hell. Ibn Abi Hatim, Ibn Abd Dunya and Abush Sheikh stated that on the day of resurrection Allah will throw the sun, the moon and all the stars into the ocean. Then a violent wind will blow over them, as a result of which the entire ocean will turn into fire. Thus, it is correct to say that the sun and the moon will be put into the ocean. It is likewise correct to say that they will be put into hell because the entire ocean at that time will have been turned into hell. Derived from Mazari and Qurtubi. Asharit's postulations about free will. Humans have some freedom of action and total freedom of thought, but only God has the power to create acts. Humans do not have this power. Humans cannot truly understand ideas about freedom and justice, which are the domain of God alone. God may send a person to hell or heaven even though it seems unfair to human beings. Ultimately, everything God does is fair, but much of it is beyond human understanding. God may forgive the sins of the people in hell. In contrast to the theologians, Mutakalimun and philosophers, Falasifa, Ibn Arabi rejects rational interpretation, Tawil Akli, outright. If reason finds the ambiguous verses of the Quran unacceptable, this only proves its own imperfection and failure to comprehend, not the necessity of interpretation. While he insists that reading of the Quran by someone must conform to the Arabic language as spoken by its original recipient, Ibn Arabi more often than not offers surprising and highly original interpretations that seek to unveil the mystical treasures hidden in the text. Ghazali exhorts: who can guarantee that you can trust to the evidence of reason more than to that of the senses? You believed in our testimony till it was contradicted by the verdict of reason. Otherwise, you would have continued to believe it to this day. Well, perhaps, there is above reason another judge who, if he appeared, would convict reason of falsehood, just as reason has confuted us. And if such a third arbiter is not yet apparent, it does not follow that he does not exist. Conclusion. After presenting varied arguments, points of view, excerpts, textual and hadithic references, I would dare suggest that the contradiction between free will and predestination is caused by human greatest ever, inadvertent, mistakes as follows. There are few fundamental flaws in religious thinking which confuted the delineation of the texts. 1. Space-time matter elements were/are kept intact while dealing with the affairs of the afterworld. It resulted in lots of irreconcilable contradictions and subsequent fabrications for justifications thereof. 2. God, despite being acknowledged of inconceivability, is being dealt with like a human being with godly characteristics. 3. Companions and the wives of the Prophet, PBTA, are treated as vice prophets for all religiously practical purposes. Not saying, at all, that they are not to be respected, Nazubillah. However, had that been the intention of God, Maryam, R.A., was the most deserving of a prophet-like status. 4. The translators/exegetes/so-called scholars and imams, in most cases, are poorly trained in religious matters only, while absolute illiterate, otherwise. It is the need of the hour for the translation and the explication of the text, tafsir, should be undertaken by a panel of eminent scholars in all relevant disciplines instead of an individual, to make them comprehensive, logical, reasoned and acceptable to the curious and critical minds. Comment/like/share/follow